Talanoa is a word that is derived from the Samoan culture, which means having a conversation. This word can also be broken into two. Tala means story, and Noa means to tie, which brings us to Talanoa. Utopia Washington has created Talanoa as a platform to provide safe spaces for our queer and trans-Pacific Islanders to have a conversation, share their stories, and for community members to make a connection. While Talanoa is usually hosted in person, due to the pandemic, Utopia Washington has been able to utilize digital platforms to bring you Talanoa virtually. We are glad to have you here with us today. Welcome to our Talanoa.
Talofa lava and good evening. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Sue Young and I welcome any pronouns. I serve as the Systems, Policy, Environment, and Culture Change Program Manager at Utopia Washington. Welcome to our Talanoa Laws and Lands. What's at stake in the Birthright Citizenship movement for American Samoans? To help provide context, I'd like to welcome Utopia Washington Cultural Programs Director, Ara Leigh Yandall. Ara?
Palapatu pa ia mana malo so tato wa tunu umala fa sa nga le tu la fiafi o pa ia fa tala le pa ia fa malo ma pa ia fa le tunu o le ale o ia se leo ne meane wasala se upul au auna o na vea lea mala pe o le nei a fiafi ai ta wina ia fa pe atu malo so fo manuia malo ta wa tai vi ia lo fo malanga le o le tu o so po mai no to so fua ma se o mato gola o lo wingo ara sfeinu le ma hala ni yando ma o le a fiafi nei o le au tau mawhai e whaaliwi na se whae ngoro nei Talanoanga i la tanga ngana Samoa ina ia mawai se malamanga atili i le mta upu ai mai se moa sina po tamama tina maa tutua o si o tātou atu nuu o lo mai mo mai i lunga la upenga te whailangi ma lord so i fua talo falava o tātou prokalame ma sanil nei o Talanoa o se havanoa e whetu wha i ai ma so lau pule i mta upu o lo whapea o na fi ai tātou tangata Samoa ai mai se tangata o le West Pacifica o le mta upu lani nei a fiafi ua whaaul talaina o tu la fono malawili ele po tu la fono mawhanua o le a whaafsoa i ai le lau filifilia i mta upu e whaatitau i ala po au wala e ono a whaina ai tangata o Amerika Samoa pe a wha tangata anu uina pe wha seni foi a tangata whanau i te tonu o le teritorio Amerika Samoa.
Thank you, Ara. To kick us off, we'll open with the land acknowledgement. It is important to note that this kind of land acknowledgement is not a new practice developed by colonial institutions. Land acknowledgement is a traditional custom dating back centuries for many Native communities and nations. For non-Indigenous communities, land acknowledgement is a powerful way of showing respect and honoring the Indigenous peoples of the land on which we work and live. Acknowledgement is a simple way of resisting the erasure of Indigenous histories and working towards honoring and inviting the truth. With that, I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the first people of Kent, the Muckleshoot people past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the Muckleshoot tribe. Ara.
Ai le amata li al tātou prokalame e fia whaalawi lo atu lau ele malau whanua lo mātou no fo mau wai. Ma le ala e whaalawi lo ai ni lau whanua. Ina ia wha manatu ina pia le ngā luenga whita sa whea ngai matangata anu umoni o nei lau ele o i lātou nei nā sa ina le ngasua le tai au. Ma mwai to ina le niwi le tua oi. Ma o lau ele malau whanua nei e whaasino tonu tangata anu ua ko Salish, Duwamish, ai mai se tangata mako shoot. O i lātou nei sa whasawaina ma aweseina o lātou ai atitau o lātou whanua i pule anga what kolone. Ma o le ala lea i whaatau ai na ai le whailoa aloa ia o lau ile ele nei. Ina ia tātou nofo malamalama ma tō mā natu foi i nei tangata ma o lātou lau whanua ma le awa tele whaafitai.
Thank you. Now I'd love to give a chance for the panelists to a moment to introduce themselves. Unfortunately, due to scheduling conflicts, Christian Zalea will be unable to join us this evening. So for our panelists here, please share your name, pronoun, and organization you're with. We'll start with Taffy. Oh, Taffy, I think you're muted.
Talanoa, everyone. My name is Taffy Maene Johnson. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the executive director for the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance, or Utopia Washington as it is known by. Currently located here in the lands of the Muckleshoot and the Coast Salish peoples, now known as Kent, in Washington.
Wonderful. Thank you, Taffy. And then we'll pass it to Kiso.
Mahalo lava soifua manuia talofa. My name is Kiso Skelton, and I bring you warm greetings of talofa from our island home of American Samoa, where the pearl of the Pacific, where the sun sets, paradise begins. I'm currently a caseworker at the district office of the Honorable Congresswoman Uifatali Aumua Amata, and I thank Utopia for the opportunity to be on this call with you all to share about this very important issue concerning citizenship for American Samoans.
Thank you, Kiso. And then finally, last but not least, Ina.
Talo Falaba. My name is Leafaina Yan, and I'm currently serving as the Chief of Staff for Congresswoman Wifatali Omuamata in Washington, D.C. So I'm looking forward to this event, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Ina. All right, so before we begin, I'd love to give a little bit of important context and history on this very current topic. So I'm going to be referencing an article that actually came out this week, Monday. So bear with me as it's a little long, and Ara will translate at the end. So this past Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to consider whether American Samoans have full U.S. citizenship at birth. A group of American Samoans challenging the current law say it's a vestige of racist policies towards territories. They say the Justice Department, in defending the law, and an appeals court in upholding it, relied upon the so-called insular cases, a series of long criticized early 20th century Supreme Court rulings. The Supreme Court's decision not to hear the case means the lower court ruling remains in place. The challenge was brought by 3 American Samoans who live in Utah, John Fite Semanu, Pale Tuli, and Rosavita Tuli, as well as the Southern Utah Pacific Island Coalition, an advocacy group. So their lawyers say that the subordinate, inferior, non-citizen national status relegates American Samoans to second-class participation in the U.S. They note, for example, that U.S. nationals cannot run for president or serve in Congress. If they live in a state, they cannot vote and are barred from certain occupations. Their passports include a statement saying, "not a U.S. citizen," which they say carries a stigma. U.S. nationals, however, can apply for full U.S. citizenship. American Samoa, with a population of around 50,000, is one of 5 U.S. territories, the others being Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands, and the Northern Mariana Islands. It is the only territory to which Congress has not extended birthright citizenship. The government of American Samoa urged the Supreme Court not to hear the case, saying that the issue should be determined through the political process should American Samoans want to change the status quo. Lawyers for the territory's government said American Samoan people cherish their unique political status. The current political settlement allows Samoans to preserve the traditional culture and land ownership customs known as Fa'a Samoa. And finally, the lawyers added, American Samoan people have not yet reached consensus on whether to accept the privileges and responsibilities of birthright citizenship, but they firmly believe that with any decision on birthright citizenship for American Samoa should come through the democratic process. So Ara, I'll let you translate.
Ina te inai
Oh, and you're muted.
mawalunga. O le malo Amerika, se pili na kaulu e winga e le veo tangata whananau te tono Amerika Samoa ma Citizenship po tangata anu o Amerika. E to tolu tangata Samoa lo no fo le state o Utah na mafua ina au mai le name ta upu il famsinonga. Ona wala to moli mawina le faya esea po ni amionga fa ilonga tangata pe fa ilonga lanu foi ya ilato ai o fa apungai ona o ilato wale fa tangata anu wina ile malo Amerika pe fa Citizenship foi. O ilato nei o John Fitzemanu, Palituli, Marosavita Tuli. Ato ay malalango-lango man lo sil fa'alango tuptongo le Southern Utah Pacific Islander Coalition liana mafayay o na fa'auru le mau itutonu o le sino mauai-uai o le naimta upu sino nga mawalunga. Wana o Amerika Samoa territory, Amerika ile ifatangata nuuina o lanto tangata. Ito tele tangata o le antunu o lo fia ile tulanga. O maletulanga o lo iai nei. Ma ile finangalo e suia le whaatangata nuuina o tangata whananau tutono o territory o na le mafuanga nei ina ia whaasao ina ile anga nu Samoa. Ma ia tau finau e tangata o Amerika Samoa le pule ma ayanta tau i o lanto lava lau whanua ma lau ele. Natali atu whainga malo Amerika Samoa il whaamsinonga maulunga Amerika whaamole mole ia te ena le nei mau a wā o le mta upul nei e te tau o na Talanoa ina e tangata Amerika Samoa ma palo taina tutono o le malo Amerika Samoa I tūlanga whaatemakarasi pe ona masani ai.
Thank you so much, Ara. So with that, we move to our Talanoa. So the purpose of which is to discuss with American Samoans themselves how they feel about birthright citizenship, preserving Fa'a Samoa, and their experiences with this pertinent issue. So I think to start us off, I'd love if folks could share a little bit about their story, including your connection to American Samoa and your migration story. Feel free to self-translate for yourself if you choose to speak in multiple languages. And could we start with Ina?
Sure. So my story, grew up in American Samoa, went to school there, graduated from Samoana High School, and left the territory for the first time ever to go to New York. And I attended the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I had to I had to apply for citizenship while I was there because the school is for officers and you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to be commissioned as an officer in the military. So the Army helped me through that process, and it was a quick process. So I was commissioned a second lieutenant, served in the military for 25 and a half years, and then retired in 2014. And so now I'm working for the Congresswoman as her chief of staff. So that's my story. And American Samoa is very near and dear to my heart. And I want to do whatever I can to preserve our culture and our traditions for future generations, just like our forefathers saw that, 100 plus years ago when they signed the deeds of accession with the United States. They made sure that our identity, our self-determination, that we were able to preserve that in our culture and our lands. Because it's very easy to look at an issue and not have to look further down the road and say, well, we should be citizens because we're part of the United States. But most people, especially those that live outside of American Samoa, do not see the second, third, and fourth order effects of what happens. All we have to do is look at Hawaii. You look at, the way they lost their lands. The United States came, made them citizens. Took over their lands, and now the Hawaiians are trying to fight for their lands back. So it's very important for us to preserve our way of life, our Samoa, for future generations. So back to you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So maybe I can pass it to Kiso. Could you share a little bit about your story, your connection to Samoa, and your migration story as well, if you'd like to? Thank you.
Talofa once again, everyone, especially the people of American Samoa tuning in to this social call. Again, my name is Kiso Skelton, and I bring you warm greetings from the home of our ancestors, American Samoa. First of all, I thank God for blessing us with American Samoa, and for having American Samoa as our home, and also our home away from home, no matter where we are in this world. I graduated from Wifatali Peter Coleman Elementary School in Pangupangu, and then went on to Tafuna High School, where I graduated in 2017. I moved to Hawaii, and I lived there for 4 years to pursue my bachelor's degree in political and historical studies. I returned back to American Samoa right after the border closure. Actually, during the border closure, as I was also in Hawaii pursuing my degree in Masters of Science in Legal Studies and Public Policy. Um, my connection to Samoa is simply this: it's my home, it's my land, it's our home. And so this is a very special place to me and majority and everyone who is from American Samoa because of so many reasons. First, it's our Fasinamanga. It's our identity. It's the place where you will refer to when people ask you, where are you from? Yeah, Natalia Tulolia. I'm from the Pearl of the Pacific where the sun sets, paradise begins, American Samoa. And so that's how important it is that we value our place of birth. And as Chief of Staff Lafaina had mentioned, the citizenship case has been circulating around for so many years. And I too stand firm with our people in protecting our rights, our individual rights, our self-determination rights to our lands and our properties that God has blessed us with. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Kiso. And finally, Taffy, what's your migration story, and your connection to American Samoa?
Talfalava, once again, Taffy, and I was born and raised in the village of Nu'uli, in the islands of Tutuila. Like Chief Lefaina and Kiso, all from American Samoa. I'm currently living in Kent, Washington, but my connection to Samoa runs deep through my veins. I mean, my nose tells people where I'm from. It's because all the other Samoans. But my story with immigration started over a decade ago when I left Samoa in the mid-90s, right after high school. But during that time period, I would return home and came back and forth to California until I finally moved to Washington in 2006 and made it home. And during that time, I was employed with the Washington State, and I filled out my application. And my application, it asked, are you a U.S. citizen or an immigrant? I forgot what the question was. And because I have a U.S. passport, I checked, I'm a U.S. citizen. Because there was nothing that says, if you're a U.S. national, which I knew from the get-go. My U.S. passport at the time always states in the back that, the bearer of this passport is a U.S. national and not a U.S. citizen. So after a year with my employment with this department, it's a year probation. So after a year probation, my administrator at the time pulled me in and said, okay, we're going to process your paperwork so that we can make you permanent, blah, blah, blah. Let's see your passport. So I handed over my passport. And then a week later, they had to do some investigation. I don't know, whatever they had to do in the back office. I got pulled in and said, are you a U.S. citizen? And I said, well, I'm a U.S. national. I was born in American Samoa. I hold a U.S. passport. And they said, so you're not a U.S. citizen? I said, no, I'm a U.S. national. And so it got really complicated to the point where I was terminated. They said, okay, well, because you're not a U.S. citizen, you have to go get naturalized to become a U.S. citizen so that you can continue employment here. I didn't feel like I needed to do that because I already have status legally to be here. So, of course, I was really frustrated. I was disappointed. I was upset. I was angry yet again. And so right during that time was when this case started, the conversation with, I think his name is Neil, Attorney Neil, heard my story for some reason. I can't remember the ins and outs, and reached out. So I connected with Neil and we talked about how, this had happened. And so they're putting me on like 3 months kind of probation thing to go fix my paper, my naturalization. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't really need it. I'll just go find another job. But it was really frustrating, and I got really upset about that. And I felt like I was being treated as, second class. And I didn't feel like I don't want to do this naturalization. I went to school in American Samoa where we learned the U.S. history since grade 1 all the way to my senior year, and I don't have to take another history test to tell you about the history of the United States. I already know all that stuff. So, fortunately, I was able to secure employment through a different department with the state of Washington. But that case went through in the beginning, the first time around, and I was part of that. Part of what was confusing for me was I was part of that because I didn't want this to be for everyone in American Samoa. I wanted this process to be easier for folks who want to be able to just get naturalized, or get easier for them to obtain employment, or if they want to vote, that it was a process that you don't have to pay $700 or whatever. Some type of process that way. So I pulled out from that, from the first case, from the first time around, because I didn't want to conflict or let it conflate with what I was trying to stand for. I wanted a different process where it's easier for American Samoa nationals to go into the federal government, to the Homeland Security, and be able to provide some type of birth certificate to the government and quickly or affordably become a citizen as an individual without having a group of the whole entire country or the whole island of American Samoa be involved in the process where they have to become U.S. citizens. Completely understand and stand in solidarity with all of our people back home that this should be a democratic process, that this has to go to the community. I mean, like Chief said, what happened to our Kanaka Maoli siblings? They're fighting for land sovereignty. And that's the last thing we want to do, is to fight for our lands that our ancestors have fought for so many years. And to give all of that up, I think the way that we should address this is to, and I know Congresswoman Amata has a bill. I think it's HR 1941, which will assist U.S. nationals living in the U.S. To choose citizenship. And I'm sure we'll get down to this, and Chief Lafaina and Kiso Skelton will probably speak elaborately more on this subject as they're more familiar with this House bill. But like having a process that allows American Samoa's nationals who are currently residing in the United States to have a simpler process or an easier process, or waiving the fee or waiving the history test. I ended up going in to get naturalized years later because it was a need for me, because I saw that I was never going to move back to Samoa. I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. And so I needed to have a voice in our democratic process. And that was, my voice was to vote. And so I went through the process. And let me tell you, it was such an insult because I went to school learning all this stuff, and they asked me 6 questions. One of those questions was, who is the U.S. president? Who is the vice president? How many flag or stars on the U.S. flag? And I'm like, are you kidding? You're just wasting resources. I have proof that our ancestors have signed this deed to the U.S. and that I took U.S. history. I know all this stuff, and why do I have to do all this all over again? But anyways, that's my long ramble. Thank you so much for the time.
No, thank you so much, Taffy, for sharing that. I think that's an experience that needs to be heard in terms of the nuance that it needs to be recognized as a lot of American Samoans move to the diaspora, move to the US. I would love to hear maybe initial responses from Chief or Kiso to Taffy's story, and if they've heard similar stories from fellow American Samoans.
Yes, since I've been in this office, we hear about it all the time, especially those in the military. One of the issues is we were working to pull together a bill to make it easier for U.S. nationals to apply for citizenship. We've had to change some of the language, modify it as we discover some of the issues that the U.S. nationals are going through, and most of them are in the military. We were finding out that some of our fellow American Samoans who were commissioned into the military, not realizing they had to be U.S. citizens, were now being threatened to take their commission away. They were officers. Now they were being told they might get kicked out if they don't become U.S. citizens. And so we were finding out that, especially our fellow American Samoans who were going through the ROTC program, if they were going through the military academies, that's an easy thing because the military academies will monitor your status and they will make sure that you apply for citizenship and they help you. But if you're out there in ROTC in any of the colleges, they don't know. So we were working to try to fix this bill, and we finally did fix it to include all the issues. We are asking to waive the fees, to waive the test. We don't need to take the test. We all went through the American school system in American Samoa. It makes absolutely no sense for us. And also we're asking, because the current requirement, a U.S. national who wants to apply for citizenship has to come and live in the United States for 3 months before they can apply. They cannot apply for citizenship from American Samoa. So that's part of what we're putting in our bill to get rid of that requirement. Why do they have to come and live here? They should be able to apply for citizenship from American Samoa. And one of the main reasons we're asking for that, we were finding out that the military, specifically the Army, because they're the ones that have recruiters back home, they were taking away MOS's jobs that some of these kids were qualifying for because it required them to be U.S. citizens and required them to have the ability to get a security clearance. So the only openings that were, given to our young, students that are graduating high school are something like you can be an infantryman, these jobs when their scores are so high that they can go into military intelligence or signal, some of those jobs that require a secret clearance. And because they're U.S. nationals, you cannot get a secret clearance or higher. If you're a U.S. national, you have to become a U.S. citizen. So we're trying to simplify it. So these students, before they come in the Army or before they take the Army test, they can go apply for citizenship while they're in American Samoa, while they're going to high school, so that by the time they get their citizenship, they're able to go take the test and qualify for much better jobs in the military. So this is all discovery learning as we were putting together the wording for the bill. And then the other thing was U.S. nationals who are trying to adopt that adopted children, let's say from independent Samoa, and they were trying to apply for their papers so they can be recognized as their children and to be U.S. nationals. Come to find out, they're not allowed to do that. It's part of the law. So we were that's part of what's also in this bill, trying to change that so that U.S. nationals can apply for, to change the status of children that they legally adopted to be U.S. nationals or U.S. citizens, if whatever the case may be. So our bill has been sitting in committee for the past couple of years because of this Fitzsimons case. The Natural Resources Committee will not advance our bill, will not hold a hearing on it until the Supreme Court has resolved the case. So now that the Supreme Court has resolved the case, they do not want to take on the case that the ruling from the 10th Circuit Court stands. So now we can try to push it. But because we're at the end of this 117th Congress, we only have, a total of less than 3 weeks worth of in session for the Congress, because it's an election year. Most of the members are working out of their district offices as they do their campaign. So when they come back in November, we'll have maybe 2.5 weeks of session. And for us to try to push a hearing on this bill, we might get a hearing, but it's not going to go anywhere until next Congress, because everything at the end of the 2 years of Congress just kind of goes away until the new Congress starts, because new members are going to be elected from other districts, so everything starts over in January. So I'm hoping that nobody else files a lawsuit, and then our bill's going to have to sit again in committee. But we're going to try to push it. First thing, if we can't get it done this Congress, we're going to try to push it for next year, get it through, get a hearing through the Natural Resources Committee, get it onto the House floor and move it on, so that way we can at least make it easier for U.S. nationals that want to be U.S. citizens, to apply. Because the process right now applies to aliens. We're not aliens, we're U.S. nationals, for crying out loud. And so there's not an easier process currently. But if this goes through, I think it'll be a big win for American Samoa, for those that want to be U.S. citizens.
Kiso, do you have any pieces you would like to add?
Thank you so very much, Yoon. In addition to what our Chief of Staff had mentioned, one of the important factors about this HR 1941 introduced by Congresswoman Mo'amata is the opportunity for people to choose on their own. Conversion is optional. So converting from U.S. national to U.S. citizen is up to you, the people of American Samoa. It's not determined by anyone but you, the citizens of American Samoa, aside from simplifying the process to assist our constituents and the people of American Samoa. And I want to share this in Samoan because I know we have a lot of people listening in. Ite mina walo te aonga I Amerika. E school CPA aonga. E school CPA investema ko lisi ele anga vaai I o tatou tangata. Ia e school CPA anga vaai na o ilatou citizen Amerika. Ai sa ye tamiti aonga na matua aonga fatasi. Sa matu fasoa, we took the time to discuss the pros and cons of the issue of citizenship should you decide to obtain U.S. citizenship. And so that's where we came out with the decision, ele whaongaina ia lea tūlanga citizen. Ona lao tūlanga ia I tūlanga tau whanua, tūlanga tau swafa, tūlanga tau waia tau. Pea o te me toi taliu mai ai Amerika Samoa, especially that we're being considered an unincorporated territory. I tūlanga whapena, so whaftai lava.
Thank you everyone for your nuanced explanations, and I love to hear the progress on this bill. Something that's coming up for me is seeing what are some ways possibly that folks in the diaspora and American Samoans and their allies could support this bill or push this effort forward. Would you have any tips, Chief?
For those that are living in the States, it'll be great if they can get a hold of the congressman or congresswoman from their district and, put a bug in their ear to see, to let them know. And we try to do that. We try to share it with the other offices as well, especially the ones that are sitting in the same committee, so that they understand what we're asking for. And not only that, if we spread the word out to the other members of Congress, when it comes to the House floor, they will understand and hopefully vote it, push it through real quickly, and we can advance it. So if you're living anywhere, in the States, look up who your member of Congress is and the district that you live in, and send them a friendly note or give them a call, and just let them know what we're trying to do, that it'll help, our people that are living in the United States.
I have a follow-up question on that, Chief. Has the Congresswoman Amata's office had a conversation with the individuals that are pushing for this lawsuit to come to an understanding of the advantages of the HR 1941 and how that can benefit the people versus what they're pushing for that could possibly not only us as Samoans would lose our lands and our rights and our Matai system. Like, has there ever an opportunity to have that conversation? I'm curious to see so that it doesn't go, have another lawsuit coming so that
Yeah.
bill is going to be pushed back again.
Yeah, no, there has not been. I think it's mostly the talking has been between the lawyers. We were lucky enough that Mike Williams took on this case back when Faluma Vainga was the congressman, and he's doing it pro bono. He's married to Julian, who's from Aua, I believe. So yeah, they live here in Alexandria, and so Mike Williams has been great. He's from a great law firm, and so they've just been talking between the lawyers. I don't think we've had the opportunity to talk to those folks that presented the lawsuit, but hopefully with this Talanoa that we're doing, we're trying to spread the word to everybody out there that it's, we're not being treated as second-class citizens by making us U.S. nationals. It's what we want, is what our forefathers want, and it's the protection of our Samoa, our lands. And we don't want, the United States to come in and say, well, now you're U.S. citizens. We're going. And the other important issue that most people don't know, being U.S. nationals and owning our own immigration system in American Samoa, we control our own borders. So, and we have, all of us have family in independent Samoa, and they can come and go. They just need a permit. They can come for 30 days. Some have moved to American Samoa and gotten married, have kids, made a life there. And if we become U.S. citizens, what's going to happen to us is what happened to CNMI when they became U.S. citizens. The United States came in and closed their border and owned their border. And so they can do that to us. When we become U.S. citizens, anybody from independent Samoa or anywhere else, they want to come to American Samoa, they have to get a visa, just like they're coming to the United States. They will not be able. And we have falabilaves between, our families in American Samoa and Samoa, and we have the freedom to travel back and forth. And if this happens, that is one thing that our folks that live here don't understand. We control our border, so it's easy for us to travel back and forth to independent Samoa and American Samoa. But if they close our border, that's not going to happen. And then what's going to happen to those people that were born outside American Samoa that live in American Samoa right now? They've been there for 10, 20, 30 years, gotten married, had kids. And now if the United States comes in and make us U.S. citizens and close our border, they're going to say, well, you guys are illegal aliens. We're going to deport you to where you came from. And that's what scares me. It's going to break up families, and it is going to destroy, our families back home. And I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, that's really good to know.
Yeah, these are pieces I haven't heard. And go ahead, Giso.
Yeah, I want to add too on that regarding the way to make sure that we get that bill passed. I totally agree with Chief Lefaina. I'm calling out to all of our Samoan communities around the world, especially in the United States, to reach out to your state representatives and senators to put pressure on the issue and try to lobby to get their support to have this bill passed. I'm also calling out on the American Samoa government to also write to the United States Congress to support the bill that the Honorable Congresswoman had already introduced, because this is very important to our people. It's an alternative to the naturalization process, and especially simplifying the process for them. And touching on the issue regarding citizenship, that's why we're called an unincorporated and unorganized territory. Unincorporated meaning that not all parts of the United States Constitution applies to American Samoa. For example, the Citizenship Clause doesn't apply to American Samoa. Immigration laws does not apply to American Samoa. E leo tūla fono uma o le whaavae o Amerika Samoa e mawhai ona whaongaina mo mata upu e patino i Amerika Samoa. Ono Amerika Samoa ia os territory e lei atoa ona tuu i lalo le whaavae o Amerika as far as the political status matulanga whapena. And I also want to mention how smart our people are as far as creating laws to protect our lands, to put restrictions on alienating Samoan lands. Matulanga uma whapena. We have laws here in American Samoa passed by the American Samoa government that protects Samoan lands. Itulanga whapena. Alienation of Samoan land, if it's a freehold land, if it's a freehold land, it may be alienated to a person with less than 1/2 of Samoan blood. And that's cited in the Moon versus Falimalama case court, which was back in 1975. And if it's a communal land, o Fanua la ia Samoa, Fanua tau Samoa, Fanua ia Fanua la tele, Matulanga whapena, e le mawhai ona whaatauina atu, I tangata ese atu ma Amerika Samoa po tangata Samoa e siri atu ma 5% pe lalo mai ma 5% ia tūlanga o toto Samoa ia pe on whamtalaina I tono le Moon versus Whanmalama case court in 1975 for tūlanga. And I just wanted to mention that too, that in addition to the naturalization process, we also have policies and laws that protects the alienation of our Samoan lands here in American Samoa.
Thank you. I'd love to make space for a response to that. Something I'm also hearing is really, in my research of this issue, I've heard American Samoa really be a model of indigenous sovereignty, including for other territories that the U.S. Protects and owns, and including other indigenous communities within the U.S. I would love to hear from folks here, what does true indigenous sovereignty look like or mean to you? I know it's kind of a deep question, but I'd love to hear maybe your experience with this unique limbo state that America Samoa is in.
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, I'm just saying, being a Samoan and being from American Samoa, it's what we're proud of. It's I mean, if you look at going back every time for me to American Samoa, whenever I travel back, it's kind of like I'm going back to the motherland to renew my spirit, to be in touch with my people, to be in touch with my language, my culture. Because I've been away from home since I left at 18 years old, went to school, joined the Army, came into this job. But my heart is always Samoan. My heart is always in Samoa. And so no matter where in the world I go, I mean, people ask me, where are you from? I'm from American Samoa. Even though I live here now, I don't say I'm from Maryland because that's weird. I'm not from Maryland. I live here. I'm from American Samoa. That's where my heart is. It's kind of hard to say anything other than that. Go ahead, Kiso.
Okay, thank you, Chief. So what does true indigenous sovereignty look like or mean to me? It's simply this. So long as the will of the people governed American Samoa. That's the community that I want. That's the indigenous sovereignty community that I look forward to. It's a tele limta pulea. It's a pulea o tatou tangata o tatou lava. It's a tuto tasio tatou. I tatou muta upu. Whai lava tatou whai unga. E au noa ma se whaatinoina se si lava tangata. And when we have that power, and when we have that kind of community, ai longa to ye se mata upu ye citizen. ai longa to ye se si to fa la ve America Samoa ya na ya tau mo na fanua mo na swafa pe apu lea America Samoa ia na mata upu tau fanua ma swafa o tūlanga lea o te fia wa ai lava mai o lau lea fa uinganga o le tūlanga lea o le indigenous sovereignty mo America Samoa whaftai.
I think as Indigenous people, specifically from Samoa, I think we view ourselves as both self and nature, as part of an extended ecological family that shares not only our ancestral histories, but also our origins and also our cultural traditions and our values. I mean, our ancestors are the most amazing people that they knew what they were going to leave us. And I think what they left us is the future. And the future is meant for us as Indigenous Native Samoans, that we are meant to know our traditional values, our songs, our stories, our language, our plants, our medicine, our healing process, and our traditions, and our relationships with our bodies, and our relationship with our elders, and our relationships with our youth. And we are meant to be in relationship with our lands. And our land means so much to us and our ancestors. We are meant to care for one another and to raise our children on our lands and secure the safety of our extended communities through our uncles, through our aunties, through our brothers and our sisters. And so, as Indigenous sovereignty, we are meant to work with not only our spirits, but our hearts and our hands to create the work that our ancestors had laid for us, so that we can continue to push for a better future for everyone else that comes after us.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for those answers. Feeling touched by the spirit right now. I would love to. I know we've all spoken on this a little bit, but I'm hearing this connection with land ownership and the 50% blood quantum in terms of being having Samoan blood to own land. I would love to hear what it means. What does that land ownership custom mean, and also what does it look like currently for the state of American Samoa, and also. If you could speak on how does land ownership relate to Fa Samoa and to culture? I know it's been spoken on a little bit, but yeah, just a direction towards of what land ownership and custom rights look like and mean to you.
Land ownership and the 50% blood quantum means that it's simply a way to protect and preserve our Samoan lands. O le tulafono le ana fausia ina ia puipuia ia tulanga o whanua tau Samoa, i America Samoa. And in the Samoan culture, there's a high chief for every family, or a sao. There's a matai for every family, there's a sao. And every family has a communal land in American Samoa, or Whanua Lautele. And those communal lands is not owned by just one person, it's owned by the entire family. And so decisions on those lands, decisions affecting those lands should be made by the family and the South, not by any other political institution, not by any other person, but the family that owns the land. And so that's simply what the system is here in American Samoa as far as land ownership and its relation to the Samoan culture. It's also if matai Samoa lava masi ainga Samoa. E ailo na sao, e ailo na whanua. Ol whanua, e pūlea e de ainga Samoa, e le pūlea e nao le sao. Lona winga, o whaai unga uma, e winga i le whanua. Lau tele lea po le communal land, e le whaia tō tasi e se tangata tō tasi. E whaia le ainga atoa, mai i le tā upu leo sitseni, e le tala whea ngai le whaia, e seisi i tū pā, po seisi baenga ia se whai unga e a whia e whanua a seisi a inga i patino na mai a te lato. Whaftai.
Thank you. So, Chief Taffy, what does land ownership and the 50% blood quantum mean for you as an American Samoan?
Yeah, I can go. So I don't intend to speak on behalf of anyone, as this is my own perspective on blood quantum. And blood quantum was a system that the federal government placed on tribes, on Native Americans, as an effort to limit their citizenship. And I feel like it not only minimizes, but it also puts restrictions on who can be a citizen of this government or who can be a citizen of that village. And I feel like the Fa'asamoa, the Matai system, we all, like Kiso said it so perfectly. There's already systems in place in our government, in our Matai system, that we understand, are familiar with their ngafa or their lineage, and understand that. And so I think it'll be complicated. And it's also that system that decreases the community and can possibly lead to demise of one community. And so that's my take on that.
And just to add on to what Kiso and Taffy are saying, for the family, the extended family, the great thing about having the communal land is the fact that you don't have to go out and buy land to build your house. You just go to the high chief or the sao and ask, let them know you want to build a house, and they can figure out a spot on that land for you to build your house. So all you got to pay for is the material to build your house, but the land belongs to the family, and then it's a communal decision on who builds a house where. As long as they support all the family falabilaves and everything else that's going on. So that's just to add on to what Kiso and Taffy said.
And in addition to that, Yoon, and that's the essence of being a U.S. national. That's the essence of being a U.S. national. You get to own your own land. You get to control and govern your own communal lands without any foreign influence. Ole ta'uan na o tato sitseni le yengi o US National. E ya oile ya tau e whaua yalo whale ni me te mana o yei lungo o whanua tau ainga. E reise tong, you don't have to pay mortgage. You don't have to pay rent. Mea umalawa whapena, when you own your own land, you have your own house. And that's the best thing about being a US national. Freedom, self-determination, and the power to control everything that belongs to you, the people of American Samoa. And sorry, I want to add one more, Yoon. And I just want to make this note because this is all protected under law. This is all, everything that we discussed about lands, chief titles, and whatnot. It's all protected under the deed of cession. It's all protected under the deed of cession. I thank our ancestors for their vision. Ile puipuinga o a tātou mea tō tino ma mea sina e au ngā mo le lumana'i o Amerika Samoa. I thank them for their vision to protect and preserve the Samoan traditions and culture. And you know what? It's our duty and our responsibility to do the same for the future generations.
I just love to hear the different ways that land ownership is perceived and enacted. It's so different from what I, as a Korean American, I'm used to in terms of what land ownership looks like, and it's really refreshing and interesting to hear the different styles of collective land ownership. We have a great question from the chat I'd love to bring to the group. With the push for HR 1941, the House bill, does someone's status dictate how they are able to navigate the unique governmental and cultural approaches to land in American Samoa when dealing with their families and land designation? Does naturalization and citizenship take anything away from being a U.S. national? Does someone need to revert back to becoming a U.S. national for land ownership and determination? Is that even possible?
That's a mouthful.
I know. It's like, what?
I think the essence of the question is really what is lost if someone becomes a citizen in American Samoa. Can they still go back to American Samoa and own land and still participate in these land ownership practices?
Yes.
Yes. Well, the thing is, thank you for that question, Yoon. The thing is, yes, even if you apply for U.S. citizenship and you become naturalized U.S. citizen, of course you have your own rights to your communal lands. Matulang ang umafapin. Iyay labalo yata. Why? Because o tula fono le yay nei temine. Ole ta upu tau fanua maswafa. Afa yo oil Samoa. 5% e ana ilunga. O oe o le tōtino o le ainga e ana le whanua, a native member of the family. Of course, that's your tie to the land. That's your relationship. That's your connection to the land. And so no one can take that away from you. So, of course, the answer is yes. And the possibility of converting back, that's another fear about converting to U.S. citizenship. Because it depends on the country. You cannot go back. Once you become a U.S. citizen, it's either one thing for sure, you're gonna have to give up your nationality. So if you can break down those questions, I would love to answer all of them because there was quite a lot of I think I only answered 2. Thank you so much, Ayur.
I appreciate
I think you
that.
answered the important part, Kiso.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you covered all of it.
Yeah, I think you did. I think, I think you covered the answer as well. Thank you so much, Kiso. Were there any responses from Chief to that question? Or
Nope,
anything that's
Kiso covered it all.
Great, awesome. I would love to hear from folks about just generally educating the community. What does Fa'a Samoa mean and look like to you? As someone living in American Samoa and also as someone in the diaspora. And how might this relate to the issue on hand?
So the Fa Samoa, or the Samoan way, it doesn't matter. This is just my opinion. It doesn't matter whether you live in American Samoa or you live anywhere in the world. When you're a Samoan and you grew up in a Samoan way, learning our language, our customs, our culture, and everything, it stays with you. No matter, your body may be here, but your heart and is with your people and is with your culture. And it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, you're so proud of who you are, of who your people are, that no matter where you live, you always look around. Is there another Samoan close by? As soon as you just start talking in Samoan with them and sharing everything. And so it to me, the Samoan way is my life. It's me. It's part of me. It's not something that I put aside when I come here to the United States and then I put on when I go to Samoa. No, it's me. It's like pumping the blood out of me. It's kind of very hard. It's me, part of me. So I guess that's what the Samoa or the Samoan way means to me.
Chief.
Thank you. Fa Samoa, as Chief had mentioned, is the Samoan way of life. Ole soifuanga leo tatu tangata Samoa. And, I always like to say this. The Samoan culture is a living culture. Ole anga nu Samoa, ole anga nu wola. And to prove that is this. Wherever a Samoan go, whenever a Samoan person travel to or live, wherever they stay, there's always a Fa Samoa. You will see that in funerals in the United States. You will see that in government functions in the United States. You will see that in family functions in the United States. And that's the Fa Samoa that I know. It's a living culture. It's our identity. It's what identifies us. And that's why Fasino Manga, it's called Fasino. Everything that points to you, that's your Fa Samoa. That's the Samoan way of life. Fasino Manga. O mea malava e Fasino yete ai. Yete oe ma o oe Samoa o a o Samoa o ta Fasino Manga na. And so again, Samoan culture, the Fa Samoa is a living culture, and I'm proud to be a Samoan. And I thank you for this opportunity to Utopia to share, especially about the culture, but the citizenship. So,
So, like I said earlier, I was raised in Samoa. So I was raised in the Fa Samoa. Um, it it means adhering to the traditional ways of living, and some of those cultural customs include fa'aloalo, or respect, respect for our elders, respect for our parents, respect for each other, reverence towards nature, towards land, water, and close familial ties that lead to an emphasis in collectivity. When I moved here, because I am in diaspora, it was difficult for me as someone who grew up in Samoa to navigate the life here in America. So, in order for me to survive, I had to conform to a lot of American ways in order for me to thrive here. And so there, of course, with that comes with a lot of moment of loneliness and feeling of distance from both physically and emotionally from your culture, from your family, from the Fa'asamoa, from your people, and especially family, and that can take a toll on someone. And it's even more challenging as someone who identifies as Fa'afafine and as a trans person. And so that's where Utopia is here. And it's not only our safe space, but it's our political home where we're not only able to share about our cultures, share about our languages, and its ways, and we found ways and methods to continue to keep our culture alive and keep our cultural vibrant and thriving here while in diaspora. And Samoa is a living culture. And like Kiso said, no matter where we go, we bring our culture, we bring our family. I bring all of my family with me wherever I go, and I bring my village wherever I go. And it's because of the Samoa that was instilled in me.
Mm, Thank you, Taffy. Thank you. Thank you. Something that I'm curious about bringing up is this issue or this topic with the Fa'amatai government system and how if there are individual issues or kind of rights that want to be asserted, how is that done in the Matai system? And because in the U.S. we have this way of protecting rights or passing bills that protect rights. Is that something that's similar in Samoa? Do we have?
Thank you, Yoon. May I? Can you clarify? I'm just concerned about the way it's phrased. Is it Famatai government system as the Matai system, the Matai Council? Is that what you're referring to? Because there's also Matai system getting involved in government, in American Samoa government. So I just want to make sure what the question is pertaining to, whether it's for the Matai Council only, or you're referring to both the Matai Council and the American Samoa government, because the culture does
Mm,
involved in the American Samoa government. So I just want
well,
to make
maybe
sure.
yeah, thank you for clarifying. Maybe could we start with describing the differences between the two?
Okay, thank you. Let me start with the Famatai or the Matai system, Matai Council. Our Samoan people are really smart. We are really smart. You know why? This is the reason why. Before the United States took over American Samoa and implemented this whole democratic process, our ancestors already had the same similar process in the Matai system. And here's the system that functions back in villages, in village councils and Matai systems. Every family has a Matai or Sao or High Chief, and Matais from those families form the Matai system or the Matai Council, which governs every separate town in American Samoa or villages or district. And so in that council, the purpose of that council is to create policies that would protect the village, protect the district, protect the town in which they govern. And so that's how important this process is for our villages, especially our village members, because here in American Samoa, we have what we call SA or curfew. And curfew is part of that policy. It's part of that policy by the Matai Council. The curfew is a way to make sure that people are at their home safely, to make sure that people are doing prayer service in the evening, because that's the culture. That's the Samoan way of Samoa, a Samoan way of life for every single citizen in American Samoa. And then when it comes to the American Samoa government, this is the unique part about our system of government, is that our senators are not elected.
Mm.
Our senators are not elected. Senators in American Samoa are not elected. By law, by the Constitution of American Samoa, senators are required to be selected through the cultural process. And what is that cultural process? The village council, or the Matai Council or Matai system, is responsible for selecting the senator for that said district or that village. And those senators come together to form the House of Senate for the American Samoa government. So it's very important to note that the culture does have a big influence in the American Samoa government. And that's the difference between the two.
Thank you. Chief or Taffy, any responses?
I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gisels, you're doing amazing.
Yeah, I think I love how I'm also learning this as well. And so in turn, like our village leaders who are known as Matais are highly respected by those they serve. And so I love how Kiso had broken it down into that level. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I've got one more thing, Yoon. This system of checks and balance, this system of checks and balance where the people can vote and remove their representative from the House or their elected representatives. It's the same thing with the Matai Council. The family has the right to remove the Sao if the Sao is not doing the right thing. That's why you're called a Sao. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing for your family. And you don't want to be the Sao and you're doing the opposite of the name Sao. Yeah, so again, there's a checks and balance system in this Matai Council, Matai system, and this Samoan culture. And that's what that's what I love about our culture. So in other words, way before the United States Americanized us, we already Samoanized their way of democratic process. So we have it all here in American Samoa.
I think I just want to add last thing. I don't want to say like because, but in that system as well, like both the family and the village leaders are, it's a show of qualities of selflessness and putting the best interests of our community and our family members above their own interests. So, Samoan people are known for their warmth, their smiles, and their friendly personalities. And so they have that gift of welcoming and accepting just about anyone that they meet. You walk down the store, you'll see a Samoan, they'll ask you, like, "Oi Samoa, are you Samoan? Oi kuainga?" So it's no surprise that the qualities such as hospitality and cooperation and respect, and the consensus are highly valued in the Samoa and as well as in the Matai system in the Samoan culture. So thank you.
That's so true. May I add, the royal crown of the Samoan culture is respect. And when you come to American Samoa, you will be treated like you're the king, the queen. Our people with their hospitality and welcoming smiles. It's just the Samoan way of doing things, and it's our way of life. And I hope that more people will come as they watch this, come to American Samoa and take a look at it and experience it, the way our people live, because that's the only way you will know how it feels to be a Samoan, is to live and learn the culture of time.
Yeah, you're definitely making me want to go.
It's the pearl of the Pacific where the sun sets, paradise begins.
Yeah, I feel like we really covered a lot of ground and we're able to really cover a lot of the different nuances of this conversation. I think I want to start thinking about the tail end, and I would love for folks to think about what they would want to say to the plaintiffs or folks who continue to want to support the birthright citizenship movement. If they were here right now, what would you say, so that it could be a really clear message about why this actually might not be the best interest for Samoa and its future?
I think we just play them this whole conversation because every issue that we've discussed and we've brought up the reasons why we don't want this birthright citizenship for our people. We've discussed this. Look at the second, third, and fourth order effects for our people when this happens. Our borders get closed. We lose our ability to govern our own self, through our Matai system within the villages and our communal land. We can easily be strangers in our own home, and we don't want to. We don't want that.
Wow, strangers in our home. That's an idea.
Thank you, Yoon. This is such a very important topic for our people, and there's so much fear in American Samoa should we decide to become a citizen by birthright citizenship. And so my advice is this: American Samoa and the Samoan culture and the Samoan community, we're really big on respect. We're really big on respect, and my advice is that there's an alternative to getting U.S. citizenship, and that's through the naturalization process. And it's important that they respect too the majority opinion of the American Samoa community and the people of our country, because this is concerning our lands, concerning our Matai titles, concerning our Samoan culture. And again, it's really important that we preserve and protect our Samoan way of life for future generations. So again, it's a self-determination issue. It should never be about one person speaking up about for the majority, especially when it's not their opinion, it's not what they want. It's important that you yourself do what you want, but not what you want for other people that they do not want. So o le mata upo nei e tā ua tele o nai a fia ai whanua masuafa o la wele ele ai me se o tūlanga o soifuanga wha Samoa o le fautuanga whatau waa ma le nganga maolalo ia alofa mai se o tātou atunu o Amerika Samoa ia e whaaloalo atu fo i la o tau whautautanga ia a whai o ia i whautautanga e fia sitsen o lo ia i le avanoa e whaiuna uia i nā tūlanga a vea oi masitseni e au ngā i the naturalization process. Ia e whaamon mole, a ua ne I whina wina name ta au puina ia wha o kometi le sitseni ino o tātou tangata. Ona e leo tūlanga na o lo ta oto e whina ngalo le tunu. I teimi nei, a whai e whina ngalo Amerika Samoa. E a vea masitseni, o le whai unga na e whai Amerika Samoa atoa. Ai le na o tangata to tasi peto rua peto tolu. Whaftaitele, whamanuia le tua, soifua.
So part of the, as someone who works for a nonprofit, I think a message first for me would be to the federal government to provide funding to organizations and agencies so that they can help our communities, our U.S. nationals, to be able to pay for this processing fee while we wait for this bill to go through. I think a lot of our communities, it's easy to say that it's just $700, but a lot of our families are, we live in multiple households. It's because we're trying to make it through. And also we're trying to support our loved ones back home. So $700, that may not come easy for everyone. And so my plea is for the government or for any foundations who has funding to be able to support our people so that we can be able to pay for this processing fee. And then also, as while we wait for the HR 1941, for that to go through Congress and especially those living in the United States. I know as someone who lives here and continues to pull resources from here and, live life here in the United States, I think it's easier for me to say, get everybody naturalized or whatever. But I have to think about my family back home. I have to think about our people back home. I have to prioritize what our forefathers have put forth for us, our ancestors have fought for. And so I can't be that greedy one who wants to sit here with all my privilege and be able to just say, give this to me right now. But I think it should be a democratic process with our people who are living back home, who will go through that process, that pain, who will benefit a lot of that loss if they go through this process. So I think with the plaintiffs, I think a Talanoa, let's have conversations. Let's have conversations between communities and our village councils, our Matai system, and everybody, and have that the respect with each other and not have to go this far so that nobody is hurting, nobody is suffering and have to go through this, and so that we can be able to just be able to access all the resources that we can here in the diaspora for those folks who are currently here. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Well, thank you all so much. I learned so much from this conversation, and there's so many different pieces that I feel more educated on. And so I just wanted to thank the panelists here for being here and this really informative discussion. I'm so glad we had an opportunity to discuss this really pressing and current issue from the community's voices themselves. So a round of applause from our audience watching. And I'd like to end with some final announcements just for Utopia, as we have our final Adopt a Street event of the year on this Saturday, the 29th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Utopia office. We'll have different Halloween-related booths, so please join us. And then our big event of the year, Trans Awareness Week, is the whole week of November 14th, culminating in Trans Day of Remembrance on Sunday, November 20th. Please check our social media and website for updates. And I'd love to welcome back our lovely translator, Arle, to help close us out. Yes, of course, Steffi.
Sorry. Can we also make sure, so yesterday we launched the US Trans Survey. I want to urge everyone out there, also our trans siblings in American Samoa, that it's very important that you complete this. It takes about 30 to 60 minutes to complete the survey. Last survey was done in 2015 and there was only 20-something thousand that was represented. Data is very important. I know that as Indigenous people, our stories count as data for us, but in the government that we're in right now, in the state that we're in right now, data is very important. And so in order for us to get the resources as trans communities, also folks who identify as Fa'afafine Leiti Mahu, please complete the US Trans Survey. We have it all on our social media. If you need tablets or equipments to complete the survey, if you have a question, please reach out to us, reach out to our office. We're happy to go over the survey with you over the phone, or we can come and see you in person if you're here, or if you want to pay for my fare to come to American Samoa, I don't mind that. Thank you.
Thanks, Daphne. Hand it over to Ara. Oh, Ara, you'll have to unmute. You're in.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Taffy. I was just about to announce that, but thank you. Talanoa wano whalea satui a maalfe au male ta'ukul tanoi na nei a fiafi, na reia nei le nei ava no ai whai le ulea whatau va ai whai msui la fionga whatoni a Taffy Mary Johnson, I may say for whala pitonga Utopia, Washington. Ema moli atu ele mato wanganga whaafitai sa iyo le kanto lau lau filifili le nei a fiafi, whatai to fan loto, Whaatai fo i tō whamanino ua whaali ai tu sai fo i manam tā upo nei fo. O le talo, ia sanga whamanuia te lele atu le whai walo filima le ngata i lea ia sanga lingi atu le susia ma le malama ai ati u te tau ave e tau tuai so tātou wātinu a inga ma e ka le sia. Moli atu whaatai tele i lo whaatasi mai i le neitu la o le afiafi tātou pro kalama. I tu sai fo i malo sila mai mo mai lunga le penga te whailangi nei a fiafi. A whai wai ai se pati o sala, o se ngangana fo i wale tau tamali i lo sila, ma lo whaafunga anga i nei tu la fiafi. Ia malu a whane i lo finangalo e poto lava le tau tai, ai se selo na atu le ama. Tau ina ia whamanuia te lele tua nei tu la fiafi o le sunga na i asu yang yun o hau nei o aras whenu le yanto, so whaina.
Fafa Lava. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening or good morning or wherever you are. Thank you.